Someone told me last week that we share something like 70% DNA with a strawberry. And then she said, so just imagine how similar we actually must be as humans. Now, I don't know if that holds any truth, but it still made me think of the amount of times that we assume we are different when we are not. And to the contrary, when we fail to see how unique we actually are, and how somehow both can be true. That's why I've always been fascinated by the conviction we have in one-size-fits-all structures. Like we would all be that exact same strawberry, no deviations. And the exact same thing could work for any two humans or groups or companies, as if following these streamlined paths that we so often walk down would universally make us feel better or do better or achieve whatever else it is that we've set out to do. It's interesting because the more I talk and explore, the more confounded I am by any structure that doesn't embrace chaos and change and variability. Yes, we are similar in that we all need structure, rhythms that hold us, our health, our energy, our creativity, but what each of us needs within that is in fact different. And taking it upon ourselves to find or build those support systems might be one of the best things that we can gift ourselves. But in this moment in time, it can feel like quite a chore. Between the overflow of options and bulleted lists and the stress of simply staying afloat in a world that is seemingly breaking apart, we are often directed away from ourselves and towards technology or fail-safe processes created with productivity and economical gain in mind, towards the things that give us the immediate relief of simplicity without the long-term ability to harbor our nuance or our evolution. I've heard enough people shamefully admit they couldn't keep those good habits up, or they made the wrong choice even though they knew better. And I've come to think that maybe the secret sauce isn't a narrow schedule, but choosing a lens, a science, a belief system, or a set of principles that, yes, give us direction, but more than that, those that help us not just to momentarily find harmony or be in harmony with our lives, but those that teach us to cultivate a curious and loving relationship with ourselves, an inner listening and observation that helps us both make good choices and adjust them. And yet, there are days where simplicity is all that we can digest. So, if you are coming here today feeling a lot of tension in your throat and heart, or like constriction somewhere in the upper parts of your body, or like energy is piling up in your head, or maybe you're in search for immediate answers, that is a great place to be. That is information, and this is your out. If that is how you feel, this is not a moment that requires more consumption, but one that asks for spaciousness. Maybe instead of listening, take a deep breath, interlace your fingers at the back of your skull, and rest your head into them. Stretch your shoulders open and make yourself aware of the relationship between your head and your hands. Or if you're sitting somewhere and your hands are tied up, focus on the relationship between your hips and the seat, or between your feet and the ground. And let your senses speak to you. What is available to relate to? What flow, what tension? Make space, and if you need it, press pause. This episode will be here if and when it feels right to come back. And if you are still here, amazing. My guest Veronica and I are super happy to share this treat of a conversation with you. You can, as always, choose to listen exactly as you love, or you can join us in practice. Lean into your listening. As you listen, pay attention. What is your relationship to this? Are you responding to an outer inspiration, or is there an inner fire being ignited? And if there is that outer spark or that strong inner pulse, give it your attention. How does it feel? Where does it sit? Maybe you too. Press pause, follow it, book that meeting, reach out to that friend. Sit in silent breath for a moment. Let yourself be led by you. I'm sure we will find our way back to each other if there is medicine here for you. Before we go into anything else, I'd love to just check in with you a little. And I'm wondering what kind of season you're finding yourself in right now.
Ooh. Yeah. For me, given how I have decided to structure my life, to live my life, to move, you just saying the word seasons opens up worlds for me. It opens up how possibilities, it opens up connection, it opens up emotions, textures, challenge, discipline, and all the things specific to where I'm at. So, for me, and when we're recording, we're very close to the summer solstice here I'm in Southern California, so in North America. And this has been a season transition quickly into the heat happens not only environmentally here for me, but it happens in, here's a lot of fire. Here's a lot of action that you can take. Here's a lot of invitation. Here's a lot of focus. We could say North Star, or something that is often, if not always, guiding me is the principles of Ayurveda and holism. My life is not confined to a specific practice, but of holism and Ayurveda. There are principles that have definitely saved my life and have changed the trajectory of my life. There's life before Ayurveda for me and life after. And with fire, with heat, we understand that like a fire, like a flame, boom, that's where the focus goes. In a dark room, there's nothing there, no, all empty, and then you see a fire and you automatically, whether your head turns or not, you're there. And so in the summertime and the heat, there's a lot of these sparks, boom, 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 for me, relationally, with love, with family. There's these different sparks and fire and focus points and things to tend to and to cook and to change, transform, to digest, assimilate, to let go of, as well as how I serve in my work, in my you could call a vocation, but how I choose to give back. And so lots of sparks, meaning very important for me in this season, this time, to take intentional moments to close the eyes from all of the fire, the focus, and the different invitations, to see where the spark is within me, to see where the fire is being lit in me, and make sure I'm tending to that as well. Because I can get very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that that's kind of the arc that you took it through. As I was listening to you, one of the things that emerged for me was, wow, like, we all know those moments where everything's set on fire and there's just like this overflow of inspiration, of energy, of desire, and how do you create harmony for yourself in that? Because it's also I don't know how that is for you, but for me, it's definitely very easy to get sucked in and carried away. And then I kind of lose sight of what's actually available to me, which is why I loved you said turning to look at the flame within.
Mhm.
It's been my experience throughout many years of living like as a person with ambition and a creative spark that doesn't always come naturally.
Mhm.
Like it's something that I need to and get to cultivate.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I'm not sure if there's a question baked in here, but
Mhm.
that's what came up for me.
Well, as you're sharing, it reminds me of my journey with that too, that looking within not being a natural thing. If your listeners, if your audience is familiar with Ayurveda at all, a lot of people will say, "Oh, either it's oils or spices," or they'll say something like the doshas. "Oh yeah, the doshas. I'm Vata, I'm Pitta, I'm Kapha." But ultimately, those statements, those identifications can be very constricting.
Hmm.
Um, like, I am this, I am that. And I realized without knowing Ayurveda life before, I also identified myself as, oh yeah, I'm someone who leads, or I'm someone who coordinates things. If so, I'm someone, I take charge. If someone wants something, I'm gonna figure it out and I'm gonna make it happen for them. Which might tell us like how much pitta I have in me, percentage wise. But so I identified myself as I'm one who answers to the call. I'm someone who tends to that thing.
Hmm.
And so that was such an identity for me. And like you said, looking in wasn't a practice that I had uh, at all until I needed to have that, until my body forced me into that, essentially. And I can still find myself, I very much find myself in this summer forgetting that I have that aspect of me as well. We all do have that ability to look within.
Hmm.
So it's a practice. I may have a higher percentage, and I'm doing air quotes, but again in Ayurveda, it's a medical healthcare system. So my amount of pitta dosha in me just has a tendency. I have a tendency to keep doing action, to keep looking outward, to create something, to do something. It's just a pathway that I've already carved in me, and the other pathway is just something I need to continue. I choose, I would like to keep tending to because it helps me feel in harmony and homeostasis. So that's what I thought of when you said that too.
Mm. How has Ayurveda, how did that help you open that practice of connection within?
I would say, like a lot of people, um, my first gateway to looking within was a yogic practice, was specifically an asana practice. And this asana practice, physical movement, postures, structures, making shapes and breathing, it took about a year for me to notice how I was speaking to myself, of practice consistently, almost every day, 5 days a week or so. And I kept this practice. Um, Even if it was painful, I was dealing with a lot of skin issues. I was born with eczema. It became very chronic in my adult years, and I was on and off. And an asana practice helped me breathe and helped me focus on something. And then over about a year, even if I was in pain because of all the sweat, because I chose to do hot yoga, which is not a real thing in India. It's just hot there. It just is. But it took me about a year to notice in the mirror, I was like, so mean. I was so mean to myself. Eyes on my eyes, like, drop your head, like, oh, you fell out, like, oh my gosh, like, you look fat, you look this, like, oh my gosh, you feel like you're gonna throw up, you better not sit down, or like, how are you still in here doing a posture and looking the same? Everyone else has done this and that, whatever. It was so unkind, very much about my skin, a lot of it about my skin and how it looked and how that defined what kind of person I was, and my body shape. Uh, and it took a while to notice, oh my goodness, I don't actually like that.
Mm.
I don't like the way that I'm speaking to myself. So it took a while for me to take a step back into the observer, and through the same practice for a long time without someone telling me. The teachers were fantastic, but there was something that had to click in me. And at that moment, there was like an unlock. I unlocked something of the observer, of the one that listens, the one that is curious, that sees, the one that is really rooted in love and connectivity. And so within that month or week or so, I signed up for my first teacher training. And from then on, I heard about Ayurveda, and you get these tidbits in these asana trainings, and I was like, there's something here. Along the way, I met with a traditional Chinese medicine doctor for acupuncture, and he started teaching me about your food. At the time, it was a helpful orientation to the energy of food.
Mm.
And my treatment with the TCM doctor plateaued. He also said, we should stop for a bit and let this settle. And so then I found Ayurveda, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of agency here. There's a lot of responsibility that I can take on, because I'm now looking at what is my relationship to this food? What's my relationship to what's on my plate? Then the observer became curious about my relationships to the food, my relationship to my hunger. And again, continue pull back, pull back. Wait, was that choice from a place of true hunger, or from a place of not wanting to feel something specific
Mm.
out of habit? All curiosity. And so I continued to study Ayurveda. I found an Ayurvedic doctor who I still work with, who saved my life. I will say, even though eczema is not it's not fatal, it's not a fatal disease. It does have, and I'll say, safe porting here for anyone who has dealt with really challenging times, depression. There's a very, very high percentage of people with eczema, the highest percentage of non-fatal disease that leads to suicide.
Mm.
And I felt, for the first time, I did understand why people would take their life, because being in a body was too hard. It felt too hard. And I didn't want to be in my own body. I didn't know this body. It was at war with it, and it was painful to exist in it. And so I I say Dr. Jessica Valella did save me. And I continued to study with her. I did other practices, other courses, and however, the, a part of Ayurveda from the day one of practice is they've always mentioned to watch out for in translation they say quacks. Watch out for quackery. And that's something that I don't take lightly, because I've mentioned to you, I think we can smell bullshit as humans. We're good. We can, if we let ourselves, if we attune. And so I really resonated with her. Not everyone would. And I felt a lot of trust. So I went that way. She became my doctor, Ayurvedic doctor specifically, and I studied under her. I'm a Swastha Acharya, which is an Ayurvedic health coach, essentially, an SA, which, mind you, does not exist in India. A Swastha Acharya does not exist in the traditional healthcare system there, but it is required in I believe, in other areas of the world that are not rooted in Ayurveda, that's not rooted in the culture, because there's a translation, there's the gap that needs to be bridged, right? So swastacharya essentially becomes the one who can speak both languages. If you're looking at Ayurveda from an integrated lens, then there are territories or uncharted waters that we're exploring, because this science traditionally was created for Indians living in India. So how can we do this in a good way, in a holistic way? Well, very big answer to how I
Big
started to
answer.
observe.
Yeah. So you started to observe,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one part. How did it change how you spoke to yourself?
Um, so it took a long time, and I'm gonna say I'm today I go through seasons, but it definitely spoke. The change happened when I started to speak to myself in a way of curiosity, of taking any sort of feedback from myself. If I notice, wow, I am moving really fast. I'm moving very, very fast. And internally, I feel fire, or I feel like a tornado. Then the next conscious choice I make is often, why? What do you need? What do you need? So it's curious versus, you have to get this done. You have to get this done. You're not enough if you don't do this. Everyone's gonna hate you if you don't finish this platter and it looks gorgeous. Um, People are might only really want to talk to you or like you if you come with some sort of beautiful gift. So figure it out.
Mm.
Instead of, why? What do you need? Where's the gift coming from? Does it really feel like a gift? What do you need to make it feel like a true gift? So curiosity, space, breath, and merging this with somatic relational trauma therapy, trauma healing, has been very helpful for me in terms of language. In Ayurveda is inherently somatic, but Ayurveda is a Sanskrit term. So a lot of people don't know what is Ayurveda. But so inherent to Ayurveda is somatics. But here, or in other parts of the world that don't speak Sanskrit, which is most, we need more language, new ways of understanding in our own way. And so somatics, that language has helped me with, oh, what am I feeling in this moment emerging? What textures, colors, sensations? How does it feel if you rest your head back before continuing to bake those potatoes?
Mm.
um, yeah, so that's what's changed.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. And there are kind of two words that sent a little echo from your story into this answer too, that are, you said, you talked about relationships to others and to yourself, but you also briefly talked about responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like those two are, for me at least, listening to your echoing in both of your replies, in terms of both allowing you or us, like choosing something that is more holistic and more engaging of our senses as a way to approach our health and our well-being, that allows us to build different pathways of understanding ourselves and creating a different relationship to ourselves in the mirror, both on the tough days and on the good days, right? It's not just, you're still there looking yourself in the mirror in the moments where it's not going how you're planning, and then you have to get really honest but not mean, which is one part. But the other part is the responsibility And I think you said it like taking something into your own hands.
Mhm.
I feel like there are many things, ways, and structures that exist in our world today within workplaces, within other systems that house us, that have this tendency of being quite infantilizing. And of course, like we're both adults in a very busy world, and I will be the first to admit that there are days I wake up and I just go, I wish somebody would make decisions for me. Like, I just wish somebody would scan this reality and tell me just exactly do this and everything's going to be fine. And I also feel like that never works, anyways, right? It's a desire that we have a conversation with, and the things that actually make us feel harmonious, good, enjoying our life, being present, is when we have ways of taking responsibility for what we feed our body, what we feed our mind, what we feed our hearts. And I just kind of I love that that also came up because I feel in a sense if you look around it also goes against a lot of the things that are being created and consumed at the moment.
Ooh, yeah. The when you said, I wish there sometimes like there could be a scan, like, oh my goodness, this is like very much right here.
Right?
Here in 2026 with everything going on in tech and AI, decision making, discernment. As someone who believes in holism and in Ayurveda, we understand that there's excess and deficiency and well, like right in between, just enough harmony, and we're not always just there. We're constantly fluctuating, and anything in excess will lead to sickness. Anything in over deficiency will lead to some kind of sickness. And so our job throughout the seasons of our life and seasons in our environment is to find what we need and to give away the discernment, the choice is a very, very, very scary thing to me. Because if I give up my ability to tune in to discern what's best for me, who's who's controlling me? Who's my God? Who's my decision maker, my ruler, whatever? If I give that to AI, artificial intelligence, all of these things, they're coming from the human brain. They are learning from us. And so that means we also, or we're the ones who created and started all of the information that is now being fed to it, right? So the brain, like a muscle, needs to continue to explore, to be creative. Oh my goodness, I just rewatched the movie Neverending Story. Throwback to 80s movies. Yes.
Yes.
So good, so powerful. And this Neverending Story, the Fantasia needs imagination to exist. These worlds, we need to be using our imagination, our minds, our curiosity. There is an understanding in Ayurveda that some of the tools for healing the doshas of the mind, which is rajas, tamas, and sattva, which are similar. Rajas being very similar to pitta, tamas being very similar to kapha, to regulate, to harmonize these doshas of the mind is self-study, like studying the self, tuning in and finding that fire and ooh, what are the textures and feelings in that? What does that mean to me? What does that mean to me in relation to sitting with Shani? What does that mean to me in relation to making some food right now? And then the other study of some kind of science, because science in and of itself, a requirement of it means it must be able to be proven wrong. So
Yes.
the moment it's like, oh, this is the way, it's not actually science. So the study of a science which is always growing, expanding, breathing, which also means Ayurveda is still growing, expanding, breathing. It has never stopped, and it's not a methodical thing. So identifying I'm Vata, I'm Pitta, I'm Kapha is essentially outside of holism and into reductionism, what we can often see in these new ways of using healthcare. So I really do see, like you said, this relationship and discernment as a big part of the medicine. And medicine can be very bitter and can be very hard to swallow
Yes.
and a lot of work. And we're not supposed to be taking medicine all the time,
No.
but we can define medicine for ourselves too. My medicine right now is to rest. And only I know what that looks like for me. And the last thing I'll say that around relationships, around discernment, is the reminder that there's no such thing as a truth, air quotes, or a reality. That doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is perspective. Your perspective is a one reality. So that means my choice to do a certain thing, to take a certain path, to be with a certain person, to eat a certain thing is going to be the wrong thing to 50% of people who witness or see or hear my choice. And the other 50% is like, oh yeah, I would have done the same thing. That's great. And that's correct. So we'll get these different suggestions from a TCM practitioner, an Ayurvedic practitioner, I don't know, raw vegan person, keto advocate. And some of them, well, they're all quote unquote right in some way. Are they right for you? Is it right for you to make this choice with a beloved or a family? The conversations, yes. Get the support, yes. Out of curiosity for what's real and true for you. Because ultimately, any other decision or choice from someone else will come from their experience of life, through them, their projection of life based on all that they come with. So it's important to realize there's no one way in all the relating. It's open, curious.
It's open, and also not in the medicine.
Yeah.
Like it's relational, contextual, relative to our reality. I want to just do like a little sidebar and put a little bit of highlight on the doshas, because this is obviously it's so ingrained in your vocabulary and your worldview, and it has some weight in mine, but I don't know for those who listen, and I would love for them to be able to ground a little bit more in what they're hearing so they can really be gifted your wisdom too.
Sure.
So I'd love to, in the most simple sense that you can explain it, that you feel is doing right by it, just explaining the doshas and what they are, maybe, and a little bit of the framing around it.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah, the doshas can be confusing for a lot of people. So it can often be reduced down to the elements, which is not true. The elements in and of themselves, the Panchamahabhutas, are their own thing. They are the elements: fire, water, air, space, earth. And the doshas themselves, we can see them as the regulators of these elements. We can see them as the ones who can make these elements mix, not mix, move in harmony. They are the energies or forces. I almost stopped myself from saying energies, but maybe the forces, the intelligence that allow these elements to have a place to live in us. And so if they are like the on and off switch, they have a lot of jobs. There's a lot of duty with these doshas. They're constantly a force to create more bile, a force to extract the nutrients from the food you ate so that it can become your new skin cells, and then let go of something else. So these doshas are the forces that are helping to stay organized. Oh my gosh, if any human knows about organization, it is a tough thing to do constantly when everything is
Yes.
always changing. So the doshas in their nature, they can make mistakes. They can go awry, and their nature is to hold specific qualities. Like a orange I can't be like, orange, you better be a freaking purple rounded sphere when I see you next. No, the nature of an orange is to be a radiating color of orange. So pitta cannot and will not change from its qualities. So if we know that the qualities of pitta, for example, I keep saying pitta because we're coming into the summer solstice and this might be helpful, but I'll speak to the others. If pitta's quality, the force and the intelligence of go and no go of pitta is oily, is hot, is light, is intense, it's fluid, it's liquid and liquefying, and it smells. It's malodorous. That's its nature. If I feel those qualities within me, then I know that I have a high force of pitta. And how am I getting that? The environment, because the environment has the panchamahabhutas, the elements within it. And that also means the doshas are there. And every time I take in the environment through food, through my choices and actions, my daily activities, the external world is now becoming me. And there's the doshas within me are helping to make that mold me and the external world, and then let some of it go. So I'm taking in, the more I eat certain things, the more pitta I will have. The more I eat other things, the more kapha I will have. And if they're not getting expelled from the body through waste material, then I can build up this force, these forces, not only of waste, of improper digested food stuff or ama, but also of these doshas. And so we can see them as inner intelligence that also, since they follow the principles of nature and of physics, there's entropy. Entropy is always means that there's always some kind of destruction. Things are always leading to chaos. So the doshas will inevitably go out of whack. And so it's my duty to have discernment, to have discipline, and to have a relationship with them and with the outer world, because they're just going to do what they do. It's their nature. Vata is going to be dry. It's going to be cold. It's going to be light. It's going to be irregular, like my hunger or my choices of what I want to do. It's going to be mobile. It's going to move around. It'll be rough. And that's just its nature. It's not going to be anything else. And then last is kapha. The qualities of kapha is oily, cold, heavy, a stable building. It's viscous, dense, and smooth. So all of these to work right next to each other, kapha being close to vata because they're so opposite. I mean, there's bound to be some challenges. Yeah.
I love that it's baked in the assumption that there will be chaos.
Yes.
And that there will be destruction. There is atrophy, and that there is always a conversation with the imbalance.
Yes.
It feels very different to yeah, I mean, I come back to this world like word of relational
Mm-hmm.
rather than maybe like managerial, which I feel, you know, I spent a long time in corporate and it was always about managing complexity or simplifying complexity. And I'd be like, well, rather we need strategies to live with complexity, understand complexity. Like we can't
Mm-hmm.
and make decisions that at least hopefully make it so this complexity is beautiful and not complicated or bad for us or puts us in at a disadvantage, whether that's outside of us or inside of us. So yeah, I love this. And I also remember you once told me nature always wants to kill us. And it made me laugh, but it was such a it was a statement with such warmth and just like realism and I remember I don't remember what shape I received it from you, but I remember I was smiling as I was receiving it because I was like, oh, thank God somebody is saying this. And it's not just my very strange experience of reality that I'm constantly figuring out. And then listening to you, and there's of these beautiful conversations happening within us. And you talked about this window where there's like if there's excess or if there's not enough and us being in between and a dance between those. What is this understanding like the homeostasis or the harmony or whatever, what is that place, that window in the middle, what does that actually look like?
So, harmony, homeostasis within the context of constant chaos, again mentioning the law of entropy, entropy being, disorder, randomness, chaos, essentially. We can't get away from, and that is a part of nature. Given that this is always going to happen, and maybe why a lot of people end up saying Ayurveda is too much or holism, like what, I just need an answer, just tell me what to do. That window or that moment of homeostasis, that sattva or that harmony is, well, we can kind of look at it in a couple ways. One, we can look at if this agrees with the person, each person, some of the signs of health, and how do you then relate to those signs of health? Because in Ayurveda, we do have something called lakshanas. We have these signs and symptoms to define something. And yet ultimately you have to decide your life. Okay? So some people will come to Ayurveda, oh, there's too many rules. There's too many rules. Yeah, these are rules, just like a law of universe. And yet you still have to relate to those rules. And if you relate to those rules in resistance, they're definitely not for you. But if you come to them with curiosity, openness, ooh, I want to experience those quote unquote rules, principles, and try them out through me, then something might happen. So some of the lakshanas, the signs of health in Ayurveda, is your skin complexion, like it being bright. It's the whites of the eyes. It's the way I feel the moment I wake up. When I wake up within 10 minutes, do I want to get out of bed because I'm ready for the day? That's a sign of good health. How strong is my hunger? Do I feel hunger? Do I know? Do I have any relationship to hunger? Do I ever feel hungry? A lot of people I work with, that's usually where we start. They're like, oh yeah, I don't actually remember the last time I was hungry. Interessante. Let's figure that out. Let's kindle that fire in you again, because your fire's outside. So there's a sign of good hunger. I mean, I'm hungry for life. I have space to take in more life. I have the strength to assimilate it, to let go of what's not mine, and keeps the nutrients that are for now. And there's Other ways that you can define health, do I also know when to stop, when to pause and rest? Do I sleep well? Does tamas or heaviness envelop my whole body enough to sleep heavily
Mm.
so I can wake up and have that excitement for the day? So, if these qualities exist in you, then we can also go to this experience of discernment, decision, choice, because we know the brain takes a lot of energy. This is why humans eat way more than any other animal, because we have this prefrontal cortex, we have this brain that's constantly taking up a lot of our energy. So a lot of our energy goes to the digestion process in and of itself and thinking, the brain.
Mm.
So when we prioritize our food in a way that it's not taking up a lot of energy, I know to wake up and brush my teeth. I know to wake up, go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, have water. It's not taking a lot of decision making. The term decision fatigue is a real thing. It's exhausting. This is why the mamas, when I'm studying to be a doula, I'm not a mama myself yet, and I have so much love and respect because these mamas are really needing to keep this energy within as they're creating baby, and afterwards too, to make decisions and choices is a whole freaking lot.
It is. Says this mama.
So
Yeah.
it's yeah. So we need some kind of structure, whether that's the people around us to support mama and to help make those decisions, to make things happen. And if you're not a mama, but you're creating something in your life, like a business or a project, then we must create the environment and systems around it so that you can be not needing to use so much energy on making choices. I know when I
Mm.
eat. My hunger arises at this time, I eat. I take a break at this time. It's a bit more well oiled so that the deep critical thinking can use some of that energy. So back to your question about that harmony, I personally believe for me, I feel a sense of harmony when my decision making can happen in a deep breath or two.
Right.
And that ability to let go of if, ands, or buts questioning. I don't have to waste a lot of time on that. I know this food is good for me. And I spent a lot of years learning that just because, for a lot of people, we don't learn it when we're young. We just, the principles aren't taught to us, perhaps. But that's changing, I think. So I spent a lot of time to svadhyaya, to learn, to self study, so that my decision making, I know what I'm going to eat. I don't need to waste time on that. I don't need to waste energy on that. My decision making can go into something a little bit deeper. Relationships. These relationship decisions. Then I can learn myself and what I need to make these choices, probably around food and sleep, so that I can be very attuned when I need to be to something that might be very different, uncharted waters.
Mm. I love that though. What I hear is a lot of understanding what it is that holds us and daring to put that in place. And for that to also be flexible, right? With the seasons, with different seasons outside of us or inside of us.
Mhm.
Um, I've thought about that a lot recently. The structures and the systems that hold us versus those that we are grasping onto from fear or being familiar with them. And I mean, even something is, we think it's kind of obvious as food, it isn't. Um,
Mhm.
I'm at an age where, as a woman, I need to start eating a lot more protein. And I can tell it makes me feel better, but it is taking me time to reset the structure. Like, what do I need to buy when I go shopping now every week? I need to remember certain times of the day. I need to make sure I have different kinds of ingredients in my house. And I forget because I'm like a creative person and I sit down and I get sucked in, and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I'm way past the time where I should have had a snack or I should have eaten something. And so there's also this space where you're experimenting and setting it up and trying, going, actually, I don't like this. I do like this. Um, but I love what you're saying, that it's this conversation we're having, right? With how we want to be in our environment, what we want to have access to in ourselves, and where we want to spend our energy. If we want to spend it on willpower, on things that could be set up for us with more ease and more automatically somehow, that we don't have to be making a decision about it every single time, it's worth a lot.
You're touching on something that's really a, a basis of how swastacharya or a Vaidya, an Ayurvedic doctor, would work with someone. Because our job really is for a doctor, is to cure the illness. Yes. And for a swastacharya, a health coach, an Ayurvedic health coach, it's for me to subtly draw you to learning yourself. I can see, I wouldn't say diagnose because I'm not a doctor, but I can see how the doshas are moving. I can see where the tendencies are, and I can very intentionally seed that into our conversations so that you realize it for yourself and feel it through you. And I actually don't really know how you feel until you tell me and have a language around it, which is why the somatics is such a helpful piece about how one feels and the textures and parts of the body. They start to learn the language of the body through themselves. And two pieces to this. There's one aspect of Ayurveda around wholesomeness. There's a term called satmya. Satmya means this thing is wholesome for me and my body to the point where I can have a lot of it and frequently, like in quantity and in duration. It's satmya for me. And learning what that is, how do we do that? We can go back to our ancestors. Where does my bloodline, my physiology, my body knows how to break down rice, beans, chicken, olive oil. I'm Filipino, Mexican, Italian. And
Amazing mix.
it's quite the mix. So I had to learn certain things. That doesn't mean that at the beginning I could have all those things. But if we want to find a place to start, what's satmya, what's wholesome for me that I can have a high amount of and over time, then how can we do that? You said like, maybe some people want the structure. Well, we do have a structure. We can give you a structure so you don't have to make decisions at first. And I say we, meaning Mother Earth. The Earth is giving you a structure through the cycles of the sun and the moon. So what if I am feeling sick, I'm feeling any kind of illness, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, I don't want to make decisions. There's too much information out there. Let's just be real, way too much. What if this feels true and good to you, maybe we go to nature, who's giving me a structure seasonally and in terms of when the sun rises and sets. In Ayurveda, we call it dinacharya, your daily routine. That's based on when the sun rises and sets. And this means the doshas also adhere to that because the doshas are in the environment too. So we can give you, the earth is going to give you a structure because I feel maybe out of whack. I don't know why I'm bloated. I don't know why I'm at PCOS. Okay, let's use this structure as best as we can. We won't change everything at once, but let's use this as a baseline and you start learning yourself within that. So that's where the whole tracking system comes from. Like, let me track and journal myself. Great. Well, we need some kind of variable. And Mother Earth is quite a good, good
It's an
place
excellent one.
to
Yeah.
start. And then from that, okay, it's hard for me to make the change to sleep by 10 or before 10. It's very challenging. Okay, well, we start 15 minutes. 15 if I'm usually sleeping at 12, let's sleep at 11:45. Sleep at 11:30 next week. Until, okay, we get to a place now we're at Mother Earth's or these very we can call it ancient principles, but I don't like the idea of ancient because it's still alive. To me, ancient can seem like, "Oh, it's gone, it's dead." But
It's
it's a
archaic. Yeah, but it doesn't
sure.
mean that it's archaic. It just means that we stop relating to it.
Mhm. So these time tested, I like to say, because they've been tested and
Mm.
still are being tested over time. I can start testing them out. And once I'm in that range of what this dinacharya or these daily routines of the earth tell me, say is a good idea, I can then decide for myself, now that I'm there at sleeping before 10, how has my life changed? Do I like it? Do I not like it? Great. But you will feel it. But we're using these principles of Mother Earth, of these time-tested, uh, time-tested sciences of Ayurveda or whatever you decide to find something to measure myself with. And then once I have a measurement, then I can explore myself in other with others environments and how much I can stretch myself in with the capacity of health, the level of health we can say I have at the time.
Mm.
Yeah, so finding your wholesomeness, your what you can have a lot of and over time, starting with your ancestors, and then the baseline of let's see what the timeline or the daily routines are of the earth, and Ayurveda has figured that out over so many years.
Yeah, I love that. Just one thing that I get curious about, and I guess I'm observing this from a point of view of being in the Northern Hemisphere, like in Scandinavia, where, yeah, I mean, seasons look different everywhere, right? But I also find that there's a lot of transitionary seasons. Like we often just talk about it as if there's winter, there's summer, there's autumn, there's spring. And I know some years back I was reading about the Sami, which are the indigenous to the Nordic countries, and they have 8 seasons in a year, where there are like the 4 seasons, but there is also kind of a winter spring and a spring summer and a summer autumn and an autumn winter. And maybe I'm quoting this wrong, but just by principle, there are all these periods where we're moving from one to the other. Does anything change in how we can then relate to, or maybe like what does Ayurveda say about that? Because I feel like this is the thing we, in the way we speak about it, and you've been talking about language, we tend to be like thinking as if it's binary or very clean cut. Now we're
Mm.
here. Now we're here. But it rarely is. Whether you're going through phases in life in your own evolution, you're making a change, or it's outside of you and it's weather changing or hormones changing on the inside. It rarely is from one day to the next. It's over time and this kind of back and forth.
Mhm.
What happens in those seasons?
Oof, so good. I think there's something very powerful and important to connect with the culture of one's own ancestors and to see how we've been how we've been honoring the seasons. How do we change our routines with them, as well as what's done in the specific place you live in, because it might not be again like the Philippines for me, Mexico, which is quite close to me. What how does it differ based on where I'm currently living, which is super important to know, as well as my ancestors, because that's how my makeup, my body, my code. And with that, speaking to Ayurveda, one thing that I love about the principles and how it's practiced, there is a lot of importance with all the change, transitions. Transitions is where things can get lost, where things we can let things go on purpose, and then we gain new things, new tools. And we can see that in every way, like travel, lose things, pick up new things. And then there's that openness, this vulnerability too. So in Ayurveda, and it works well with me because I do have half of my lineage is from the Philippines, so a similar climate. India has very different climates from north and south, though. So actually, the way it's been practiced, the way it is practiced, is different from every region. So why you need to learn your climate wherever you are currently. And there's something called Ritu Sandhi, which is the transition seasons. So you what you're saying is very much holds true in the holistic practice of Ayurveda. These Ritu Sandhis are the 2-week windows essentially from one season to the other. So in Ayurveda, there's practices. There I mentioned dinacharya, which is a daily routine. Ritucharya is your seasonal routine. So your seasonal routine will change. And so we have in Ayurveda 6 seasons. And maybe there's more for you or less for another. So in Ayurveda, they do understand the 6 seasons because the early summer and late summer is very different. Early winter and late winter is very different. And monsoon season, but we're not dealing with the monsoon season here. So what's our version of that? And this is why that self-study is a lifelong journey. And also why being in one place, I'm not going to say anything about, there's nothing wrong with being a traveler. I traveled a whole lot and I love it. And there's something to being in one place to learn for a decent period of time, and that will look different from each person. But then there's other traditions, the Mayan tradition, from my understanding, I'm learning currently the ways of the Red Road moon dancing because I have Otomi lineage in central Mexico. And so learning some traditions, Mayan traditions, I understand that you just to my beginnings of learning this way, there's the dry and wet season. So we can even simplify it. And
Yeah.
what does dry and wet season for food mean to me? And how do I need to move? What does my seasonal routine look like around food or crops and that will dictate my health as well. So then dealing with the equinoxes, we can use the equinoxes as our mark of a dry season or a wet season, and what does that ritual look like for what's to come in preparation. The last thing I'll say on this kind of reminds me of the decision making. You're saying decision making, like, oh my gosh, decisions and the responsibility. That's the word to use. Yes, responsibility as a human. What I'm learning on this path, learning from wisdom keepers in Mexico, is that the responsibility of being a human and a woman, we're learning again. And all these ceremonies, it's been said in Mayan and Toltec wisdom that these ceremonies will come back, will emerge when it's the right time. When empire brought all of these ceremonies into hiding, and empire isn't the one like group of people. It's a mindset. This is I believe Adriana, one of my teachers in this path. She reminds us that the empire is the state of mind. It's a state, it's an idea, a thought that I need to invade or take for the safety or sanctity of myself and my needs. So it's a spreading of ideas, not a certain one person or group. So when these traditions and these ceremonies of honoring the moon, of honoring the equinoxes in different ways, and how we communicate with the earth, have a relationship to the earth, they went in hiding. But they are now coming up. It is time for us to keep learning from the wisdom of our own lands, of the lands that we're in, and what speaks to us. Because ultimately, if we are all consciousness, yes, we are connected. And how can we explore our relationships? And a big part of it, of becoming human, so I'm learning, or remembering how to be human, or remembering how to be a woman again, and however you identify, a big part of it is that responsibility, and is how we connect to the environment, the earth, the seasons. Say, if I say I'm going to do something, if I'm going to tend to the earth, I do it. So there's a lot of responsibility and preparation, and this is maybe why, at least for me, there's a lot of singing involved. There's a lot of chanting involved. When we sing and we chant, if I look deep into these chants and these rituals and ceremony, a lot of them are surrounded by a lot doing work, doing very good, important, responsible work that adds to the tapestry of the community of the earth that's around us. So it's like a little, we're like worker bees or worker ants, like really good work in harmony together. And we can do it through the rituals, the songs, perhaps the chants, perhaps that align with you, learning them in a good way that resonates for you and with integrity, then maybe we're learning something again about uh, discipline, discernment, relationships, and being human.
Human, not as an island. This is what I keep hearing in your answers. Human in relation to ourselves, to each other, to the earth. And how important that also is for our health, to be part of a context and be in connection with our context, whether it's inner or outer. I love that. We could say many more things. Many more things. And I also want to honor all of the beautiful perspectives that we have surfaced. And rather than thinking this is the end, it's a closing of a loop that we get to do. Is there any invitation, question, encouragement on your heart for anyone listening, wanting to grab onto something from what we've been speaking about?
I would say a encouragement, an invitation. If you're someone who feels the call, the spark, the curiosity to know yourself more, to that there's something there. Maybe it's not really an understanding of why, or maybe it's very clear, I need to know myself more because I'm healing from this thing. Or there's just some sort of like defined curiosity. There's this, oh, yeah, I want to know myself deeper and express myself deeper. Then my invitation is, can you give yourself just 3 minutes a day? I'm not going to tell you when. Ayurveda loves to say before the sunrise, to do the thing that you want to be very good at for the rest of your life, that Brahma Muhurta time. But that doesn't work for a lot of people. So find a time of 3 minutes to just check in with what's actually alive for you. There people have morning pages. There are so many ways that we can learn ourselves. So I would take that for 5 days to a week at least. Can you create some discipline, some structure? Because, hey, we are here in a very physical, material realm to create some kind of structure because you feel this call. Get to know yourself. What is it that you're feeling? What are the textures that you're feeling? What's my hunger like today? What do I love? What's important to me? What did I learn about myself today?
Mm,
And that will start to take shape.
yeah,
It,
I love that. Using your senses. And I think something that is awake in me is also that we get to direct that curiosity both inwards to our sensations, but also towards our roots and our heritage, towards anchors that it already exists in the routines and the rituals where we are, or where we feel like we're missing them and where we would like maybe to create them, towards the seasons and what's happening, like how those are bringing things up in our senses. So there are so many sources and lenses that you can choose for that curiosity. If just like feeling into your belly feels not accessible, then hey, there are many other places that can still teach you about you and your relationship uh, to life.
Mhm. Yes, exactly.
Mm.
And it doesn't have to mean anything beyond the curiosity,
Right?
right?
This though, like it doesn't have to be such a big deal.
It's not. It doesn't. Just the active inquiry keeps your discernment, keeps your fire lit. What that means for the future is actually not up to you. So that I, I would say if you're feeling that, you find something that works for you. And if you're sick, and I say sick with a lot of love, and that can mean different things to many people. If you're dealing with something, a physical ailment that deters you from living a complete life, that deters you from feeling joy in the morning and waking up, that deters you from making choices with ease and confidence, or that hurts physically, in the stomach and the skin, or what have you, then I would say that I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but it is possible that you might have decision fatigue as well. And exploring the self and saying, learning the self might make, and this might not be true to you, but I'm saying it through me from my experience, it might make you angry. It made me very angry. I read a book, Loving Your Eczema, and I said, you, F you, I'm pissed. I hate that. And I hate that you have a book. I was so angry. And now I'm like, dang, I get it. But
Yeah.
at the time, that was not the medicine for me. That was not going to work. It made me more mad. So that said, if you are dealing with some kind of physical ailment and you just want to get better, there is something I'm sure of that is sparking you, that's saying, oh, I want to follow that thing, TCM, Ayurveda, whatever that is, homeopathy. If it sparks something in you, find the discipline to stick with it for at least 3 months. Give yourself at least one traditional quote unquote season.
Mm.
Not gonna say, quote unquote. One season, you define what the season is for you. If it's too hard to make a choice, okay, 3 months. Stick with something for 3 months with full integrity, discipline. Get your team together, whether that's a doctor, a coach, your loved ones, it doesn't matter. Get as big of a team as you can to help you. I needed my sister to say, Veronica, we're going to figure this out, and there's another way. I told her I'm done. I said, I'm freaking done. I'm not making a choice anymore. I'm going to live with eczema and I don't want to have friends. I'm going to die soon and I'm okay with that. And she said, no, I'm going to help you find a way. So I needed some support. And she took me to the TCM doctor. And that was a gateway for me.
Mm.
Even if I didn't stick that route, it opened me up to holism. So if there's a spark in you and there's a team that you can gather together to do something different, it might just be one thing that you do very different, but consistently for at least 3 months, do that and then see where your capacity is at.
Yeah. I love that. That it's the act of commitment to ourselves that matters more than what we're actually doing.
Mhm.
That can change. We can figure out that it's not the right thing.
Yes.
Is that this act of curiosity, act of commitment, act of willingness to invest into our well-being and stick with it.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
it doesn't need to be right. I love that you said that.
Mhm. You'll start to build trust in yourself for doing a thing, and you give your cells, your physical material body, time for new turnover and a rhythm. Every disease involves vata because vata moves the doshas, it moves things out of its place. That is its quality. So we need to create a rhythm like a heartbeat, like a drum beat. Find the rhythm that's right for you so that you can find a flow. Let the decision fatigue can settle because we have a rhythm. I can expect this at this time. It's a little better for my nervous system. Now we can cell turnover. We can let some things go. The way it's going to look is going to be unique to you, but that's my invitation.
In so many ways, we may have forgotten how to orient ourselves and how to be in relationship with our own hearts and minds and bodies, even with nature and our roots. We have forgotten what it takes to experience, digest, and alchemize the things we move through and the context that we are in. But the comforting thing is, these might not be things we need to become masters of. Maybe it is enough that we are willing to ask and listen and practice. Maybe it's enough that we stop trying to erase our chaos and contradictions and that we start conversing with them. So while you are feeling into your little spark of curiosity, can I ask a small thing? Send this episode on to somebody else who needs it. And if you want to support more conversations about learning from trees, being creative, and expanding our interactions with life, don't forget to follow on your favorite podcast platform and give us a rating. Thank you so much for listening.